Well, hello everybody. Hello trumpet players. Um, Thank you for joining us today. This is Trumpet Q and A number 255. Number 255. I don't even know why I'm saying that. We're just doing it. Um, Let me see while we're waiting for the people to join us. What can I share with you? Um, the beach band we just have two more gigs. This coming Tuesday and the Tuesday after that. So that's a big deal because that means we're winding down for the summer. Um, if you don't know what the beach band is and you live in the Houston or Galveston area, I encourage you to come down. Um, beach band it's like half jazz band, half marching band, like a miniature marching band that doesn't march. But we play almost all the music that we play with that side of the ensemble is marching band arrangements. Karen says, "Hi Eddie, beach band sounds good, cool." Um, yeah, it is kind of cool. I enjoy it. Um, so yeah, we've got 2 more weeks of that. What else can I tell you? Feel free to ask your questions. I've got a glass of milk. Um, oh, I got my Uh, in the other videos, you would have seen something here that was sticking out. I got that removed yesterday. It's a little tender, but yes, finally nice to have my catheter removed from my chest like that. All right. So that's actually bigger news than the other stuff. What else can I tell you? Um, yeah, so it's been kind of a slow summer, and I'm kind of almost glad for that. Um, just to get my bearings, it's a very different lifestyle. Um, so yeah, it's just nice to. Now I could use more gigs, just overall. But yeah, it's been nice to just have the beach band. I'm also looking forward to um, getting my Tuesday night teaching schedule back again. Looking forward to that. Any questions? Feel free to ask. I did release a video this week, the third video in the Lip Buzz controversy series. And if that kind of stuff interests you at all, I encourage you to check it out. In that video, I talk about uh, the sound wave that we associate with playing trumpet. Karen asks, vacation tips and getting back in shape on returning. Well, um, my first tip for when you go on vacation is just let it go. Unless you have something urgent that has to be ready when you get back and it's not ready when you leave, then I think it's better not to practice when you go on vacation. That's just my opinion. A lot of people disagree with me. I don't. I won't say that I don't take my horn. I do take my horn when I go on vacation. And I will have to admit also as well is that we very rarely go on vacation. Um, but so like when we go to South Africa and stuff like that, when we used to go visit my mom and stuff like that, I would take my horn, but there was never an intention to practice while I was there. The reason I take my horn, one reason is I like to teach while I'm gone, which you could say, well, that's actually worse than practicing. You could say that. You could say that in regards to what we're talking about, right? Because that's not really a vacation, right? And then I also like to go to jam sessions while I'm traveling. So so I'll often take my horn, but I won't practice. I might, on a rare occasion, warm up before something. Not a full routine, but just something to get my lips working correctly, get the air going correctly. So that's the first thing, as I would say. Um, don't try to squeeze in any practice unless you have to. There's reasons why we take vacation. Um, be there for those reasons. Whether it be family or resting and relaxing or whatever it is, keep the focus on that and don't try to cram in some any practice time. Now, returning, I think that the physical trumpet pyramid is perfect for returning after vacation. And there's different ways to apply it, right? Fortunately, today we have different levels of the pyramid, right? Different skill levels for the routines, right? And so I love coming back to an easy routine. Pardon me, you guys know about my Fridays. Um, yeah, I love coming back to a low routine. So let's say, you guys know that I do all the way up to the seventh level, the virtuoso routine. It's not uncommon for me the day I get back to just do a Tyro level, regardless of where I am in the schedule for that week. I'll just start at a very low level to sort of get, well, let me tell you this. When we take time off, it's not the chops that have a problem. That's not the problem. When we take time off, it's the air that's the problem. We, for some reason, forget how important the air is. We forget how to push the air through to make it support what the lips are doing. So, yeah, it's very, very important to do the routine when you get back for that reason. Very, very important. All right. So that's my biggest thing is do the routine because of how we approach the air. Uh, you know, we do the 50% thing, right? Where we say uh, at least half of your practice time should be on music. Apply what we're talking about with the range limiting also to your music that you're practicing. That's important too. Let me get my scoot my chair up. All right. Any other questions? I hope that answers. If you're, as always, if you need more clarification, then go ahead and ask for clarification, maybe more specifically. But yeah. Any other questions? Any questions? You know what? I hadn't put a thumbnail yet. Let me share screen. So I told you about that video that I released where where we where I talk about the trumpet sound wave. And why is it not drawing? What's going on here? Oh, because I'm drawing on YouTube. All right. Sorry about that. Oh, boy. So, if you know where you start in a wave is not necessarily the start, right? So, a trumpet sound wave, generally speaking, looks like this. Okay. And I've been waiting to like get. I want an image like this that's not just hand drawn by me, to put on the front on the of that, so that people when they watch the video they can see in the thumbnail what a trumpet sound looks like, right? So that's something to keep in mind when you watch that video. The the V that I'm talking about is here. Anyway, let's unshare. Okay. Um, Looks like Kevin might have changed his screen name. Hi, Mr. Lewis. Here's one for down the road. At what level can a person try to start gigging professionally? I'd expect the pro level, and I'm not close to that yet, but I'm wondering if it will. So here's my take on that. You can start gigging at any time. And I know that sounds weird. We think, because we're school educated, we think that only the best play professionally. Because how does that work, right? We go through Allstate. And how do we do Allstate? We pick the best. We have the musical at the school, and they want a band in the pit. What do? They pick the best. And because we were raised in that atmosphere, we think that the way you get gigs is by um, being the best, being good enough. So what it comes down to is what kind of gigs are you looking for? And I'm going to tell you right now, most of the gigs are gone. There are some high-end gigs, and maybe you know what? Maybe it's wrong. Maybe what I'm saying is incorrect. Maybe the reason it looks like to me that the gigs are gone is because the guys that used to hire me are all dead. Uh, with only a few exceptions. And so, do you have to be good enough that they would call you instead of somebody else? Sure, but why do I say that everyone can start now? Because you don't have to wait to get called. You can be the one that does the calling. You don't have to wait for some guy that has a band to call you up and say, "Hey, we're looking for a trumpet player." You don't have to wait for that. You can put your own band together. I have a student right now, an adult student who he's been putting a list of songs together. Now, don't get me wrong. He didn't have to wait. I'm not saying, oh, he did the right thing. Uh, he waited until he had enough songs. No, I'm not saying that. He could have started playing professionally long before that. Uh, but now he's got a whole long list of songs. He's got tracks to go with those songs. Did you know that you can play a gig just you by yourself? If you take iPad or uh, even a cassette deck now, you can still do that. And you take a powered speaker and you play the tracks and you play along with the tracks. You can do that by yourself and charge money for charge people money for it. Got my words mixed up. You can do that. You don't have to wait. But this guy I'm talking about not only has a bunch of tracks and also has uh, the songs learned, enough songs to do a gig. He also has now a piano player friend that he meets with once a week ish, and the two of them go through these songs together. He doesn't have to wait for someone to call him because he's putting that all together himself. And I strongly encourage people if 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 you want to play in public. Now, if your thing is you want to play with other people, that's still a doable thing. Put a brass trio together, put a brass quintet together, um, put an ensemble together of mixed type of instruments. You don't have to wait. Kevin says the middle of the pro level, or even when a person can complete it fairly well, or if it depends more on the type of music and the rest of the group and duration of the gig. Um, so I don't understand. I didn't change it intentionally. I might have missed something. Kevin says, I have a friend that does exactly that. He plays for 2 hours at nursing homes and gets paid from their entertainment budget, usually $50 to $60. See, you can do that. I have no plans of trying to do that, but he supplements his bills that way. That's right. And so there's no limit to what you can do. And you know what? When there's often times when adversity hits, I'm going through this right now myself. I would like to play more, but it's more complicated than just that. At this point in my career, I don't want to just take just any gig. There's certain people I will work with that I enjoy working with, so I don't mind what kind of gig they get. There are people like that. Less and less of them. Like I told you, most of the people I work with have passed away. Um, and, so I'm in a situation where I want to do what it is I'm telling you guys to do. I want to find people to play with. I do have my own band. And I think I've told you that we do school concerts with that band. And I want to keep doing that. But right now, those are so uh, uncommon. Especially now, I'm absolutely certain that a lot of the funding that was paying for those gigs has been removed. I'm almost certain of it. I don't have proof of that, but I'm almost certain of it. So that forces me to find ways to get to do more professional stuff myself, right? Without going through that kind of funding. So yeah, and I've got things in the works that I'm looking at to make that happen. Otherwise, I would be a hypocrite, right? I would tell you guys this is how you do it, and then I wouldn't be doing it myself. And so, what appeals to me more now than ever before is odd ensembles. Like what you guys heard in my videos where I had just me and the bass player, me and a tuba player, me and uh, a trombone player. I like doing that kind of off the wall stuff. I like it. And so, yes, I want to do more of that. And if it's going to be at first, if it's just going to be stuff I put up on YouTube, that's fine. Any questions? So, I do think that if you are proficient at the pro level, then being a pro player in a traditional sense, where you're now ready to do whatever a traditional gig requires of you. Yes, that's the reason why I called it the pro level. So you're right about that. You are right about that. The problem is that the traditional thing doesn't really exist anymore, except in these weird pockets, right? So, like here in Houston, we've got two, they call them big bands, but really what they are. Well, actually, I haven't heard the one band. Uh, but really, so the one I'm thinking about right now that I have heard, I actually was a member of that band at one point. I won't go into why I'm not a member now. But, well, actually, that's what I'm talking about now is it's not really big band. It's like the school jazz ensemble type music. And I guess I don't mind talking about why I quit that band. I actually never quit. I just didn't want to play $50 gigs. And I remember telling the leader, the guy who was a friend of mine and the leader at the time, I remember telling him that I'd rather somebody that likes that music. Maybe I didn't tell him. I told somebody, I don't remember who it was. I would rather somebody who likes that music get $50 to play it. I used to like that music. I don't like it so much anymore. It's it sounds too educational to me. There's a little bit of artistic stuff involved with that kind of music, but really what it is self-glorifying, look at how good I am, that kind of stuff. It's really not. And I know a lot of people would probably be very offended by what I'm saying. Um, but that's where I am today. I had the wonderful opportunity. So let me clarify. I played that kind of music all the way through high school, college, and all the so like when I was playing with the Houston Jazz Orchestra, which is a different Houston Jazz Orchestra than the other one I'm talking about. But when I first got to Houston, the name Houston Jazz Orchestra was owned by a big band leader I was working with, Ricky Diaz, and Chuck Nolan, who was a trumpet player in Houston at the time. So they had this. It was supposed to be like the Houston version of the Dallas Jazz Orchestra. So, and I played in that. It was the same kind of stuff as what we're talking about. Not dance band music, because the dance band stuff, Ricky Diaz had a dance band, and I was in that group too. And when I was in the Houston Jazz Orchestra when Ricky was the leader, I enjoyed that because I was playing all the lead parts and most of the solos. That was the thing when I in the 90s. That's why people hired me. They hired me to play lead and the solos. I had a student one time, my age, well, a little bit younger than me. I don't I think this story is a little embarrassing, so I won't say who it was. But he was so upset that I played first chair and all the solos. He was angry. In that band, he was my second player. And he said, "This guy better be awesome. This guy better be awesome," because I basically I took an opportunity away from him. And we did the tour, whatever you want to call it. We did it was like a week of rehearsals and a performance. And we're on at the airport on the way home. And he comes up to me and he says, "Eddie, do you give private lessons?" And he was my student. I don't know, 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years, something like that. It was a while. I'd be surprised if we went back and it was only 2 years. I'd be surprised if it was 2 years. But yeah, he was he's my age, right? We're in the same ensemble together. And and he had this attitude. He said, "This guy better be awesome." Because he took my opportunity away from me. He didn't say it like that, but that's what it boiled down to. He wanted to either be the lead guy or the solo guy. And I took both. And he liked what I did so well that he became my student. That's that's who I was in the 90s. And I enjoyed doing those kind of ensembles because it was more challenging. But the longer I played the dance stuff with these awesome, what's that word that they use? It's a military term, veterans. These awesome musical veterans, guys that have been at it for decade after decade after decade after decade and never stopped playing their horns, playing that music with them. I fell in love with it. And when I look back at all the stuff I've done in my career that I'm not doing today, that's what I miss the most. Believe it or not, and I think it's kind of rare because I mean look at the guys that are doing the that other stuff. If you tell them you want to play In the Mood or String of Pearls or any of that stuff, um, there's a disdain for it, and I don't blame them. I was there before. I don't have a problem with people liking what they like and not liking what they don't like. I don't have a problem with that. But me personally, I grew to love that music so much, and I miss it. I miss it. There's something about. Let me tell you guys this story, and I can't remember who wrote the arrangement. But when I was playing in the Ed Gerlach band, he liked to give me the solo for the Sandpiper song, "In the Shadow of Your Smile." And if he knew I was on the gig, he would schedule that. And so, who is Ed Gerlach? Ed Gerlach was a tenor player in the Glenn Miller band. He had the most prestigious dance orchestra, big band dance orchestra in Houston, and it did have the most prestigious band for decades and decades and decades. So when I have a lot of stories about this, but yes, I used to play uh, in the shadow of your smile, and he would always introduce the song to the audience because the arrangement was done by some famous arranger. I cannot remember the name, but he's up there with all the famous big band arrangers. He's one of those guys that when you go, so like when you listen to the Village Vanguard, their albums that they put out, or Thad Jones and the Mel Lewis band, which is I think overlaps with Village Vanguard, I think. But when you hear those bands and the arrangements that they do, or Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, this guy is one of the guys that wrote for all those people. And he gave this arrangement of In the Shadow of Your Smile to the band director, to Ed Gerlach, as a gift for his birthday. And every time we did that song, he would introduce that song that way, saying this was a gift to me for my birthday many years ago. Well, one night and it was probably the last time that I played that tune in his band. And Gerlach turned his back to the audience, which he started doing a little bit more of in those last years, and had a conversation with us. He said, I sat down and he said, Eddie, I wish this arranger was here today. The guy had passed away already. I wish this guy was here today to hear you play his arrangement. And the other guys in the band were like beaming for me, right? It's like they were so happy to be part of that. And it's don't get me wrong, I'm not taking credit myself. What difference would it have made if I was playing that song in that band if it weren't for the other amazing players that were in the band? This was an awesome, awesome band. Great charts, um, great players, seasoned players. Everybody was was great at what they did. And I think about that day often. To have somebody of Ed Gerlach's caliber recognize me as being at their level. That's basically how I see it. I'm not saying I was something wonderful. I'm saying with that, he affirmed for me that I was one of the guys. And in those days, being one of the guys was not a social thing. It had to do with how good you were. So that was a very special moment for me. And the truth is, I don't mind talking about this if you guys aren't asking questions. The truth is, most of the gigs today, it doesn't matter how good you are. In fact, even the leaders themselves don't care. They are more interested in, first of all, how you look, which I've never had a problem with that, except for when I was fat, or right? But back when I was fat, nobody cared about that stuff. Back when I was fat, all they cared about was how well you played. But today they're very concerned about how you look. Very concerned. And see, me being an INTP, the more serious I am about your gig, the less likely I am to play the showbiz part. And that's why it was such a great job, a great gig to have playing with the big bands. They even when I got to Houston and I played my first big band gig, they they were talking about the days when it was you weren't allowed to shake the guy's hands, and smiling was discouraged because the people who paid so much money for those bands wanted to know they were getting the best product possible. And to their sensibilities, if you were on the stage having a good time, you probably weren't very good. That's how they used to see it back then. That's great for me because when I'm having a great time, musically speaking, I don't look like I'm having a great time. Some people have accused me of looking like I was a tortured soul or something like that. But that's because of my personality type. You look up INTP, and we are internal to ourselves. Everything happens up here. And the deeper we get into a gig, the more the more involved we are in doing your gig, the more serious we are, the more this goes blank. It's just built into me. Now I will go on a gig and play the part. It's a kind of ironic because the more I enjoy your gig, the more this goes flat. And I'm absolutely certain that there have been times when nobody's really ever fired me. Well, okay, there have been two or three times in my career that I got fired. What really happens, because it's all what do you call it? Freelance. What really happens is they just don't call you again. And but most of those guys, I am very suspicious that the reason they don't call me again is because I look like I'm not having fun. Does that make sense? By the way, feel free to ask questions. I have another Ed Gerlach story. So I sent Ed Gerlach a tape of all my jazz stuff, and he sent me a nice letter back. Says, "Thank you, but no thank you. This is not the kind of jazz that we do." He said he enjoyed it, but he can't hire me. This is the same guy I'm talking about, right? Um, so then, my friend Dennis Dotson referred. They needed another trumpet player. He referred me to Mr. Gerlach, and then so did the lead player, Buddy Cisco, referred me to Mr. Gerlach. To no avail. He still wasn't going because he had the tape. He knew what I sounded like, and he knew that didn't fit what he was doing with his band. So at the time, I was the advanced jazz improvisation consultant for the high school for the performing and visual arts. I was throughout the '90s, with exception of 2 years, I was that teacher. And so for one of their galas at the school, they had the Ed Gerlach band back up the main guest, who was what's the guy's name? Les Brown. And I got to play leapfrog underneath Les Brown's baton. So that was fun. With the Ed Gerlach band. So my boss, Bob Morgan, was Ed Gerlach's piano player, and he asked Ed Gerlach if I could play the third trumpet part. And that went so well that uh, Mr. Gerlach started calling me. I wasn't in the band yet. That's part of the story. I wasn't in the band yet. But the local guys didn't like to do the out of town gigs. So Gerlach called me to play lead in the band uh, on an out of town gig. I think it was Taylor, Texas, Taylor, whatever it's called. And we were going through the book, and I'm playing lead, and I open up the book to the song we're about to play. It was When You're Smiling, the standard arrangement, right, that everybody plays. When You're Smiling. Now, I had just played When You're Smiling lead part, uh, like for a few months before that. It was for a long time. So I had that part memorized, but it was missing out of the lead book. It was gone. We couldn't find it. And the guy next to me waved Mr. Gerlach off and says, "We can't find the first trumpet part." But I said, "No, no, no, that's okay. That's okay. I've got it memorized." And so we start, and I nailed it by memory. And so on the next break, I sit down on the bandstand at the edge of the bandstand, and Mr. Gerlach comes up to me and says, "Eddie," he always started when he talked to me, he would always say my name like that. "Eddie," he says, "I would like to hire you to be a regular trumpet player in my band." So that was the beginning of it. That's how I got into his band, by playing. And obviously, I would have had to play. I don't mean to sound like I'm patting myself on the back. I think what I'm doing here is showing you how fond I am of playing that kind of music at that level. Oh, I love it. And I love being good at it, you know? And I love that people appreciated what I was doing. They appreciated from a perspective of people who were far, far better than I was. They appreciated my contribution to what they were doing. You know, I went to Ed Gerlach's funeral, and I was the only musician that the preacher mentioned by name. I was the only musician in the whole eulogy that the preacher mentioned by name. So yes, I do miss it. I miss that my musicianship matters. I miss that. So, like, most of the gigs I've played since, it didn't matter, right? You could have me or you can have some other person. It wouldn't matter. With the Ed Gerlach band, it mattered because it mattered to them how good it was. So if you made the cut, if there were people who subbed for the band who didn't. Fine players, but didn't treat the gig with the respect, and didn't get called back again. So yeah, I really do miss it. And here's what I want for myself right now. I want to be able to pass that on. I just don't know how to do that. I want to be the guy that has the band. I want to be the next Ed Gerlach, where the musicianship matters. That we're not just making a buck, that there's standards to be upheld, And it's not just how hard are the charts. That's what I don't like about they call it stage band music, right? It's not. The stage band music is all about how hard it is. Oh, they played this and they played that. Oh, look how hard that is. Um, and as I've gotten more mature, understand more and more how hard something is irrelevant. I hope that makes sense. All right, guys. Any questions? I know I went on and on about too much about myself, huh? Too much about myself. And I guess the reason why I got onto that is because I'm finding myself in the same situation as my students lately, right? I'm finding myself in the same situation. Uh, where do we go to do this? Especially in an environment where people don't really care what you do. That they could, if they don't think about it, if they don't care about your musicianship, they are forced to care about what you look like. Or how well you get along with the guys and stuff like that. All that stuff that has nothing to do with music. Any questions? Looks like someone tried to ask a comment. I mean, ask a question. I'm sorry, I said comment. Let's see here. I'll have to check it out later. Any questions? Oh, I see. My screen name was Sunstorm. That's right. But my actual account under Kevin D. Oh, random switches it at random. I mean, YouTube switches it at random. Kevin says, do you think it's advisable to join musicians union regardless of your playing level? In other words, if a person doesn't join, are they going to run into problems? No, more likely if you do join, you will run into problems. I'm not telling people not to join the union. Don't get me wrong. But I'm also very honest, where a lot of people wouldn't be honest. Okay? The problem you might have is being in the union and playing with non union bands. Now, Houston doesn't have a way to check that. So in Houston, play with a union band, don't play with a union band, be a union, don't be a union. Uh, there are very, very few gigs in Houston that would prevent you from getting the gig just because you weren't union. So the way I see it, wait to join the union until you get a call to play a union gig, then join the union. I hope that makes sense. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. I guess we'll close down for today. Um, so thanks for hanging out as usual. It's always nice to see you guys. And we'll see you next time. All right. Have a great week. God bless you. Bye.